Every cut we get a cut. I love that there's a scene where Madonna and her dancers are Breathless Mahoney and her dancers are practicing for a show at the club, the big club. And Pacino is in the middle of it telling them how to dance, but he's not telling them. He is doing zero directing. He is just yelling at them for about 7 minutes. And it's not 7 minutes, but he is running around, more, oh, yeah, less, yeah, oh,
and doing a little smack here on the Madonna. Yeah, exactly.
No, higher, lower,
little
higher,
kit,
higher.
Little caboodle.
Yeah. He is giving the opposite of direction. But that's an entire scene dedicated to that. Pacino showed up to this movie and just overacted, and he got a Golden Globe nomination, he got an Academy Award nomination, and he got a BAFTA nomination.
Yeah, right, and then Scent of a Woman came out after this, and he just did the same role.
And he...
Exactly.
Listen, this movie, though, was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture. I mean, this was the most Academy Award winning, eventually had Dark Knight, Black Panther, stuff like that. But this was the comic book movie.
Oh, yeah. In my memory, it is the comic book movie. Right? Like, I don't remember Batman as the comic book movie. Batman is Batman, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but cinematically, both of those.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost consider Marvel now to be like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not called the Marvel comic universe.
Yeah.
There are differences between the two, you know. This movie, in particular, did a very, very faithful job with making it a comic book movie. In fact, there was a game that Norbert used to play, a Genesis game that he had on an emulator, and he'll have to tell you what it was. But I don't remember what the game was called, but you actually play through comic book frames.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that was really, and sort of, there's a similarity there for me, right? This one, I grew up with comic books, like the actual comic books, you know, and
look at the framing of this movie. I mean, the aspect ratio that they use. When he punches people, he punches them through a window that's silhouetted that looks like it's framed as a comic book splash panel.
Oh, no, when he's coming, my favorite is when he's coming through, when Tess is taken, and it, obviously, you know, Breathless had staged that whole thing that Big Boy had taken Tess, right? And then Big Boy comes in and with Flat Top, and they're looking at Tess, and they're like, what? Who's this? What's going on? And then Tracy's up there coming through the skylight. And the way that they did that frame askew from the top, and then the glass is pouring down with all the silhouette of the black and the glitter off, and the silhouette of Tracy coming through with just like the coat, the yellow, like, come on. Like, if you're, like, that's how I pictured in the comic. And here, like, beautiful. Beautiful shot.
How much do you weigh? 190?
Yeah, about 190.
210? Remember that scene?
No.
No, remember that scene where he asked the guy? He's like, how much do you weigh? And the guy's down there going, I don't know, 190? Well, 210. Remember that scene?
I could be that guy.
Yeah. And then he's like, jump down. And then he shoots up in the air. But
yeah. No, yeah. And it's perfect, though. When he lands right now, these days, he'd like, whoo, flip. And then, like, he's this close. He's like,
yep.
Right there, right at the end.
Yep.
I'm like, I loved that detail. That's great. I love that you noticed that too. That's great.
I mean, I love that they shot 1:8:5 on this too. So that's not exactly super. When you think of widescreen, it's 2:39 That's the kind of standard right now. But this was they shot this to not really capture the widescreen aspect, but just to get the height and the grandeur of the matte paintings, of the streets, of the buildings, of the splash panels. So that's. Listen, this is a film. It's not. Does that? I know I'm being. Obviously, it's a film. I need to regroup here. But what I'm saying is, I just love how Beatty they made very specific choices. 1:8:5 They didn't want to do the super widescreen. They shot on 35 millimeter and then like blew it up to 70 millimeter. They really did Technicolor with color. They went out of their way to make it as practical as possible. And I guess that's what I like about it is it's almost it's just you watch Marvel movies and I adore the Marvel movies. They've given a blueprint for success that have achieved worldwide success. There's no need to hate on those, and they do bound in creativity. But this movie, it just seems like such an old school thing that I love. I love the matte paintings. I love just the old school. I mean, I think every matte painter in the world was hired for this movie. I mean, there's just so much of it.
It's funny too, right? Because ask a lot of people that watch. Me, my wife. I'm sure Norbert's got opinions about it too, because we all share the comic stuff, and there's a lot of opinions. Marvel had to go through a lot of movies before, they hit Endgame and Infinity War and everything came together. And there's a lot of movies in the first bunch that I just really can't stand. Dick Tracy didn't have a chance. This was a groundbreaking movie. They all knew it. If you're going to be militant about it, you have to know that you're going into uncharted territory. You are not going to look for the Northwest Passage with a captain that's like, yeah, all right. If you think so, you're going with a guy that's like, this is serious.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever done this before. A lot of money is going into this. We have to get it right.
And they did, for sure.
They really did. In retrospect, I have to say, a lot of times I go back and watch some movies and Piranha is one for me that I've gone back recently. And as a kid and a teenager, I was like, Piranha's the greatest. I love this movie. And now I'm like, God, that buzzing sound that they make in the water, I'm like, I can't do it anymore. But going back and watching this and even the first Batman or like Last Crusade or the Goonies, you go back and you watch those movies and you're like, they don't lose their luster. You think they might have, but there's a charm, there's a care that was put into them. Pacing was considered, the audience was considered, the story was considered, the shots. That people went into this movie and said, if I were this audience, because I was this audience, what would I want to see? And that's where Dick Tracy delivers for me 100%. Like, what would I want to see in a 1930s comic strip come to life from a serial newspaper clipping? What would I want to see out of that? And it really just nails it. And what's cool about that, and I have to mention it because it's my favorite Easter egg in the whole movie, is Die Schlumpfe.
Yes.
Right. Actually, I shouldn't even say the at the end. And I'm probably not doing it justice. So to any native German speakers out there, my German one teacher would probably kill me right now. Die Schlumpfe is the name of the opera here. Die Schlumpfe is the name of the Smurfs. But that was a reference to Elmer Schlumpf from the Friedrich Fosdick comic strip, which was a comic within a comic, and Lil Abner, and this was all made as a parody of Dick Tracy. It was the first following of a comic within a comic was a parody of Dick Tracy, which Dick Tracy parodies in the opening scene of the movie.
Wow. That's cool.
For like 10 seconds. He leaves True Heart. There's some bad stuff happening. He comes back. Hey, what'd I miss? You missed the satire of you.
Oh, it makes me so, and I love that he came back to the show and like, I'll be back. And then he comes back. That's a very Dick Tracy move.
Right? And that opera was not, it was actually written and composed. It really was. There is a composer, and I think his last name was Pastiglieri. It's a real thing made just for that movie, just to be a spoof of Dick Tracy, which was in a comic that wasn't even related to it.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
And how about this real quick? I just want to throw out some love before we go on break to the production designer, Richard Silbert, and then the art direction by Harold Michelson. But, this guy who did the production design, he did Chinatown, Carlito's Way, Tequila Sunrise, Reds, Shampoo, Rosemary's Baby.
Wow.
Graduate, which both, I think Rosemary's Baby and Graduate are like milestones in production design. They are beautifully layered. He also did Grand Prix with, Steve McQueen. And he won Oscars for an Oscar for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Then the DP, Vittorio Storaro, Storaro, he worked on Apocalypse Now. He was on The Last Emperor. He did Last Tango in Paris. He was on Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I could say that word better or whatever. Those are big, massive, massive films. This dude had won 3 Academy Awards before he came onto this film. So you have Academy Award-winning costume designer, Academy Award-winning production designer, and Academy Award-winning DP to come into this movie. And then you had the guys who did the special effects, who are amazing, the Drexlers. And they did, and John Calgoni Jr., they did Dark Knight, they did Chaplin. They worked on Irishman. These guys, Heat, Blob, Chud, Hunger. They did Friday the 13th Part 2. This is a skilled cast, man. This is a casting crew of just people bringing it. For this movie should be PG-13, but for a comic book movie. I love it.
Stephen Sondheim and Danny Elfman.
Yes.
One of those would be like 2. You got both on one movie. I'm a
and
music
Madonna.
guy.
And Madonna.
Oh,
right?
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Who I love worked with Stephen because she couldn't get the song right. But instead of being a prima donna.
Hey. Yeah. That just left me breathless right there. I love a good pun. But yeah, she worked at it. She could have been she worked with Sondheim.
Right. Exactly. Because she cared about her performance in the movie. And that's what you see. Dustin Hoffman. What I read Mumbles' makeup was the most intensive of all of the makeup. It took him 9 hours, I think I read, just to put that makeup on.
Wow.
Because his whole face, Al Pacino recognizable, like this whole half, right? And then there are some slip-ups, though. Sometimes you can see this part.
Oh, really?
It's like flapping off a little, and I'm like, ah. But, come on. For the amount of time, yeah, there's going to be some, it's fine. You spill a little water on your newspaper, that's what happened.
On set, every single actor had a makeup. They called them makeup police. They had each actor had a makeup police with them.
No spaghetti sauce. Yeah. Nobody could eat spaghetti sauce.
Hey, I'm gonna go tear into this burrito right now. No. Yeah, here is a super long straw that you can have, and
protein drink.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away from the ravioli, please. Stay away. All right. So how about this? Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more Dick Tracy. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And sorry about this, listeners, but James is going to be slurping on a ton of oysters for the rest of this, and he's going to be eating a massive pork chop during this too, which Kid ate during the scene, and some very gross eating.
Oh my God! I can't replicate eating the pork chop sound. I don't eat pork chops. I have no idea what that sounds like.
So we haven't really talked about her that much, but what did you think about Glenne Headey in this role? Did you like her character? How do you think she did?
I think she did. She I know she's playing a trope as the subjugated 1930s housewife basically, but she got some chutzpah.
Yeah.
Behind her, she has an opinion. I really like that. Yeah, in the 80s you'd hope so, right? But this is based on a 30s comic.
I felt like they updated her just well enough. I liked the relationship. I dug that. Well, she had a job at the greenhouse, which I liked. So she was a working person. She wouldn't deal with kids' crap. She said she would break kids' hand if she didn't give the money back. I think they gave her just enough scenes to...
Right.
And I think what's smart is, her character is not much on paper, but for some reason, not for some reason, she's a good actress, but Glenne was able to add something to her. And I think that's what a lot of the characters in this movie were able to do. He hired some big names for small roles in this. And listen, this is a Beatty picture produced by Disney. This is a big budget movie, so I guess he got who he wanted. But I liked her in this, and I liked that her name's Tess Trueheart. It's like, oh, brother.
Oh, well, yeah, but true to comic books, right?
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
But I think there were a lot of actors on this movie, though, that acted in period pieces before this movie.
No, you're right. Yep.
You're doing a fantasy movie. There's what ground you can make your own thing, right?
Yeah,
You're doing a cyberpunk movie, and there's you could take, but you're doing something that's happened. You have a thing that's been tread and retread over and over and over again. You have to make it new, but somehow you have to also make it faithful. And I think that's what she did the best job as, is that you believe, like, I think about my grandma. Like,
yeah.
Would she have been like, do you want a broken arm? No, did you steal that money? Nothing. Do you want a broken arm? You got me.
And kid just throws it back.
I just love it, though. I think that's, for me, that was one of the better scenes. But when she starts crying, when she brings the ice cream home with the kid and she sees breathless kiss Dick Tracy and she doesn't say anything, she gives him the ice cream. She goes into the kitchen to sit down and starts sobbing, and you hear him say, "Is this pistachio?"
Yeah.
And I think that's, oh my God, what an